Last Lesson of the Afternoon by D.H. Lawrence. D.H. Lawrence was a famous English writer and poet. He wrote novels, short stories, poems, plays, essays, travel books, and letters. He is best known for his novels Sons and Lovers, The Rainbow, Birds, Beasts, and Flowers. He died at a very early age, at the age of 44. The poem Last Lesson of the Afternoon was written towards the end of the First World War. Lawrence was not popular in his community because he refused to fight in the war and married a German woman. For these reasons, people suspected that he was a spy. Men that did not fight in the war had to do civilian jobs like teaching, and because there were not many teachers available, classes were very large. Lawrence's poetry is often biographical, which is based on his own life. Now let us have a short glimpse on the background of the poem. Last Lesson of the Afternoon is about the period when Lawrence was teaching. At this time, he was teaching in Croydon near London. He taught about 4 years. In England, government had made education compulsory and many students had no desire to learn. They were forced to learn and to attend class. This poem gives us a glimpse into the mind of a teacher. Lawrence was a very honest writer. He was not going to pretend that he found the untidy essays of his pupils worth reading. He also understood that they did not enjoy what he was teaching. At this time, he was teaching creative writing, which is very important on those days. He tried to teach them, but he found it was a complete waste of time. Ultimately, he left teaching and became a full-time author. Now we shall read first the poem Last Lesson of the Afternoon by D.H. Lawrence. When will the bell ring and end this weariness? How long have they tucked the leash and strained apart? My pack of unruly hounds I cannot start. Them again on a quarry of knowledge they hate to hunt. I can haul them and urge them no more. No longer now can I endure the brunt of the books that lie out on the desk, a full 60, of several insults of blotted pages and scrawl, of slovenly work that they have offered me. I am sick, and what on earth is the good of it all? What good of them or me I cannot see. So shall I take my last dear fuel of life to heap on my soul, and kindle my will to a flame that shall consume their dross of indifference and take the toll of their insults in punishment? I will not. I will not waste my soul and my strength for this. What do I care for all that they do amiss? What is the point of this teaching of mine and of this learning of theirs? It all goes down the same abyss. What does it matter to me if they can write a description of a dog or if they can't? What is the point? To us both it is all my aunt, and yet I am supposed to care with all my might. I do not and will not. They won't and they don't, and that's all. I shall keep my strength for myself. They can keep theirs as well. Why should we beat our heads against the wall of each other? I shall sit and wait for the bell. Dear students, after watching this video, I would like you to learn how to read this poem. So please listen to this video again and learn how to read this poem. Without delaying any further, let us now learn more about this poem, Last Lesson of the Afternoon. In the first lines of Last Lesson of the Afternoon, the speaker begins by asking the reader a rhetorical question. Rhetorical question expects no answer. The poet uses it to make his point and strengthen his argument. He wants to know when the bell will ring and his weariness will come to an end. We can say that this bell is connected to the end of a school day. Here, it is not a student who is willing that the class should end, but it is the teacher. In lines 2 and 3, Lawrence uses a metaphor to compare the teacher's student to a pack of unruly hounds. Metaphor is a comparison without using like or as. A metaphor refers to one person or object as being like another. The comparison is implied rather than stated directly. He does this because he feels he has been trying to lead them in one direction while they pull on their leads to go in another direction. They tucked the leash means he tried to keep them on and pushed back against all his attempt to bring them to knowledge. The teacher expresses his frustration in the next line over his students' unwillingness to hunt. For what to hunt? To hunt for knowledge, search for knowledge, thirst for knowledge. He was not able to help the students to have interest in their studies. Despite his best efforts, it appears that the students have won and he is exhausted. He declares that he can haul them, as one would pull a dog no more. The teacher here is exhausted. He wants to give up. He is not going to force knowledge into them any longer. In the first stanza, we can learn this meaning, quarry of knowledge, which means a pit of knowledge. They hate to hunt means they are not interested in knowledge. Weariness is extreme tiredness and fatigue. Leash means a strap, chain, or rope used to control the animal it is attached to. Now let us go to the second stanza. In the next line of the last lesson of the afternoon, the teacher here resigns himself to the inevitable or the unavoidable circumstances because he knows that his endurance is short. He can no longer bear the brunt his student inflict on him. When he expresses of the books that lie out on the desk, the poet here focuses our attention on the written work that is lying on his learner's desk to be collected. So the teacher looks round his room and sees the book that lie on the desk, and within them There are several insults of blotted pages and scrawl. Some of you might have experienced this, the insults that the teacher used to give to the teachers. The teacher does not even want to look at them. He describes them as insults because he thinks that his learners do not have any respect for him or the teacher he is teaching, or the subject he is teaching. The work was untidy because in those days there were no ballpoint pens as we have now, or even fountain pens. What the pupils used to do when they have to write is they dip pens, and the desk had little wells filled with ink in which they dipped the pens. The trouble was that if they were not very careful, the excess ink would run over the paper and make huge black blobs on the paper. Pupils who did not care about their work would produce sheets of paper with these blobs all over them. Pupils could use blotting paper, otherwise the ink would get on clothes. The 60 students whom the poet is teaching, their work is very scanty, that means very little work they do, and their work shows their laziness. In these lines, I am sick, and what on earth is the good of it all? What good to them or me I cannot see. In these lines, there is a repetition of words associated with the speaker's worn out, tired, mentally, and physically. He is sick and tired. In the last line, the teacher does not see the purpose of all of this, which means education not for him or the learners. Now let us move on to the third stanza. The first part of the third stanza, last lesson of the afternoon, begins with the speaker asking if it's right of him to take the last dear fuel, meaning his energy, and use it to rouse his own soul to the task. He knows that if he does so, then nothing will change. It is not worth his effort to destroy himself in order to help those who do not want to be helped. The teacher makes a decision in this stanza. He will not spend his energy when he says, "My last dear fuel of life." He does not spend his energy on his learners. He is going to spend it on himself. He has already tried to teach them, and that did not work. So here the poet ends this stanza by saying that he is no longer going to be punished by their careless work. When you hear the word punished, it is ironic because usually the teacher used to give punishment to the students. Now he feels that his learners, his students, are punishing him through their messy, untidy, careless work. The poet here used an ironic. Ironic means implies the opposite of what is said. For example, a detective or a police who is employed to catch a thief might himself be arrested for dishonesty. The fourth stanza. In these lines, the speaker concludes by saying that he is not going to waste the last of his physical that is strength, and spiritual, that is soul. His spiritual strength. On these students, he's supposed to be in charge of. The line, "What do I care for all that they do amiss?" The speaker or the poet here, he said that he is not going to do this any longer. He no longer cares if they don't learn anything or if their work is incorrect. And in the last line, "learning of theirs, it all goes down the same abyss." Abyss here, it means a deep, immeasurable place or space. He feels as if all the teaching and learning is falling down some huge gorge or empty hole. In the fifth stanza, what does it matter to me if they can write a description of a dog or if they can't? In this stanza, we discover that Lawrence is teaching creative writing or communicating ideas on paper, and only few learners are interested in this. He says to most of them it is not important if they can write a good description of a dog. Yet, he, as the teacher, is supposed to care. Now, in the line, "what is the point to us both? It is all my aunt." It is all my aunt means it's nonsense or a waste of time. The last stanza. In the last stanza, the teacher decides he will not care and he is going to keep all his strength to himself. He knows that his learners will not care no matter what he does. He says, "Why should we beat our heads against the wall of each other?" Bang my head against a wall means to do or say or ask for something repeatedly, but to be unable to change a situation. So now he has come to a decision that he and his learners are not going to bash their heads against the walls of each other's indifference or lack of concern. So the speaker concludes by declaring that if he did waste the last of himself on these terrible students, then he would hate them. Rather than trying, he decided he is going to sit and wait for the bell just as they are. So the moral of this poem is, knowledge cannot be driven by force. It is the love for learning which plays a vital role in the learning process. Dear students, I would like you to learn the meaning of the difficult words. First, in the first stanza, we have the words "quarry of knowledge," which means a pit of knowledge. They hate to hunt means they are not interested in knowledge. Weariness is extreme tiredness or fatigue. Leash means a strap, a chain or rope used to control the animal it is attached to. In the second stanza, we have the words endure. Endure means tolerate. Brunt is the main force of something, especially a blow or an attack. Threescore means 60 or a score is 20. Slovenly means untidy and dirty. In the third stanza, we have the word dross, which means waste or impure matter, worthless. Indifference means unconcern, apathy. And in the fourth stanza, we have the word abyss, which means a chasm or gorge so deep that its extent is not visible. And in the last stanza, Second last stanza, it is all my aunt. Remember, it means it's nonsense or a waste of time. Bang my head against a wall means to do or say or ask for something repeatedly, but to be unable to change a situation. Secondly, what I want you to learn here is the literary devices that are used in this poetry. I have shown here in the beginning like a rhetorical question. The rhetorical question you can have here is, for example, when will the bell ring and end this weariness? So this rhetorical question does not expect answer, and the poet uses it to make his point and strengthen his argument. Secondly, we have got metaphor. Metaphor is a comparison without using like or as. A metaphor refers to one person or object as being or like another, and the comparison is implied rather than stated directly. Another literary device they use here is irony. Irony means implies the opposite of what is said. For example, a detective who is employed to catch a thief might himself be arrested for dishonesty. And there are also rhyme scheme in this poem, but it is not in order. So you can see here, for example, in this stanza 4, in this stanza 4 you have like this a miss and this abyss. You can also find these rhyme schemes in other stanzas too. So just check it, and you have already learned how to detect these rhyme schemes. I have already taught you in the class. So dear students, I hope this lesson is very clear to you, and if not, if you still need explanation on this poem, last lesson of the afternoon, please feel free to call me, or you can send a message. I'll be there to help you, and I will make another video to help you to understand this poem, last lesson of the afternoon. So I wish you all the best. May God bless you and keep you under His loving care and protection.